One of the biggest misunderstandings about avoidant people is believing that the person who seems the most distant has already forgotten you. In reality, the one who acts like they don't need you may be the same person lying awake at night, thinking about you more than anyone realizes. And if you've ever cared about someone who kept pulling away, what you're about to hear may completely change the way you understand their behavior. Before we go any further, type "night" in the comments. And if you're enjoying content from Avoidant Heart, make sure you're subscribed. Every bit of support helps us continue creating videos like this. Now let's talk about what really happens when an avoidant person misses you. Not the version they show the world, and not the version they'll admit out loud. I'm talking about the quiet, hidden moments that happen when everything around them becomes still and there are no distractions left to cover up what they're feeling. Here's what many people never realize. Avoidant individuals don't feel less than anyone else. In fact, they often experience emotions very deeply. The difference is that they've spent years convincing themselves those emotions aren't safe. Somewhere along the way, they learned that depending on someone could lead to disappointment, that needing another person meant losing control, and that missing someone opened the door to getting hurt. Over time, those beliefs became their reality. So when they truly miss you, they usually don't send a message or make a phone call. Instead, they respond in ways that are much harder to recognize. To understand why, you have to understand where avoidant behavior begins. The avoidant person in your life, whether it's an ex, someone you're dating, or someone who constantly moves closer and then farther away, didn't become this way because they're incapable of love. They adapted because early in life, love often felt unpredictable. Maybe affection came and went without warning. One day they felt cared for, and the next they felt ignored. Maybe asking for comfort was met with rejection. Maybe expressing emotions made people withdraw instead of coming closer. Their nervous system learned an important lesson. Depending on others was risky, so it created a different strategy. If needing people leads to pain, I'll convince myself I don't need anyone. That belief slowly became part of who they were. They learned to appear independent, capable, and emotionally self-sufficient. Eventually, they even believed the image they had built. But then someone special enters their life. As soon as a relationship starts becoming meaningful, their internal alarm begins sounding. Instead of feeling only excitement, they feel danger. Deep inside, an old fear whispers, if this person becomes too important, losing them will destroy you. That's when they begin creating distance. They become quieter. They seem colder. They suddenly need more space. They focus on work, hobbies, or tiny relationship problems that suddenly feel much bigger than they really are. Meanwhile, you're left wondering what changed or what mistake you made. Most of the time, you didn't cause the wall. That wall existed long before you arrived. Now here's what few people ever see. After they've pulled away, or after you've stopped chasing them, the day eventually ends. Work is finished. Their phone becomes quieter. The TV turns off. The house grows silent. That's when everything they avoided during the day begins catching up with them. It doesn't usually feel like heartbreak at first. It feels like restlessness. They wander around the house without knowing why. They pick up their phone, unlock it, then put it back down. They open the refrigerator without being hungry. They move from one distraction to another, unable to settle. There's an uncomfortable feeling sitting just beneath the surface, but they don't want to name it. Because naming it would mean admitting they miss you, and that's exactly what they've trained themselves not to do. So they keep distracting themselves. They scroll social media. They start another show. They fill every quiet moment with noise, hoping the feeling disappears. Sometimes those distractions work for a little while. Then something unexpected happens. A song reminds them of you. A funny post appears that they know would make you laugh. They read something interesting and instinctively think, I should send this to them. For one brief moment, before their emotional walls rise again, they feel the connection they still have with you, and that feeling scares them. For an avoidant person, longing isn't just another emotion. It feels like losing control. It reminds them that someone has the power to affect them, and that's exactly what they've spent years trying to prevent. So they immediately look for something to quiet that feeling. Maybe they text a friend. Maybe they finally reply to someone who's been sitting in their inbox. Maybe they scroll through dating apps without any real intention of meeting someone. It's easy to assume they've already moved on, but often that's not what's happening at all. They're trying to replace discomfort with distraction. They're choosing activities that make them feel in control instead of sitting with emotions that make them feel exposed. It's not always about finding someone new. It's about escaping what they're feeling in that moment. Yet beneath every distraction, there's still a quiet part of their mind that keeps returning to you. Not the loud, logical voice that tells them everything is fine. The quieter voice they rarely allow themselves to hear. And every night, that voice begins replaying memories. Avoidant people often revisit the past instead of imagining the future. Thinking about a future together requires hope, and hope feels dangerous because it comes with the possibility of loss. The past feels safer. Nothing in those memories can hurt them again, because it's already happened. So they replay the small moments, not the dramatic conversations or the biggest milestones. They remember the ordinary moments that slipped past their defenses without them realizing it. The way you laughed at something completely unexpected, the comfortable silence you shared, the small glance across the room, the random conversation that somehow made them feel understood. Those quiet memories stay with them far longer than most people ever realize, even if they'd never admit it out loud. Sometimes it's the smallest memories that stay with them the longest. The unexpected way you laughed that made them smile without realizing it. The quiet moments when the two of you sat together, saying almost nothing, yet somehow it felt safer than they were used to. The conversation that became more personal than they ever intended. The look you gave them that made them feel truly understood. Those moments don't disappear. They carry those memories with them. Late at night, when the distractions are gone and their emotional defenses soften just enough, their mind drifts back to those moments. They may never send a message, but they revisit those memories again and again. There's something else they often do that many people never notice. They check on you without actually reaching out. They look at your social media. They watch your stories. They visit your profile, not to start a conversation, but simply to reassure themselves that you're still there. They want to know you're okay. They want proof that you're still part of their world, even from a distance. It doesn't matter if they were the one who pulled away. It doesn't matter if they created the separation. Many avoidant people secretly want something they rarely know how to ask for. They crave closeness without exposing themselves emotionally. They want the comfort of knowing you're there, without taking the emotional risk of reaching out. So they stay nearby in quiet ways. They observe, they check, they convince themselves it's only curiosity, even when it's much more than that. Then they put the phone away, the room becomes silent, and suddenly there's nothing left to distract them. This is where everything they've been avoiding begins to surface. They lie awake, carrying a confusing mixture of longing, fear, sadness, and even anger. What's surprising is that much of that anger isn't directed toward you. It's directed inward, deep down. Many of them know exactly what happened. They know they walked away from someone who genuinely mattered. They know the distance they created wasn't always wisdom. It was protection. Part of them is frustrated with themselves because they struggle to let people get close. Yet recognizing that pattern doesn't automatically erase it. So they remain stuck. They sit alone with emotions they don't know how to express because reaching out feels terrifying. Being vulnerable feels like surrender, and that's something they've trained themselves to avoid for years. Instead of risking connection, they choose familiar loneliness. It's painful, but it's predictable. And that pattern usually existed long before you ever entered their life. If you're watching this because someone like that exists in your life, I want to speak directly to you for a moment. You've probably spent countless hours wondering what you could have said differently. You've replayed conversations, searched for the perfect words, and hoped you could finally become the one person who makes them feel safe enough to stay. That's a completely natural response when you love someone. Most people hope they'll be the exception. They believe that if they love hard enough, stay patient enough, or understand enough, everything will eventually change. But here's the truth you deserve to hear. You cannot love someone out of an avoidant attachment style. No amount of patience can heal wounds they haven't chosen to face themselves. No amount of consistency can replace the personal work they must decide to do. Avoidance isn't a challenge you overcome by trying harder. It's a deeply rooted survival pattern stored inside their nervous system, and lasting change only begins when they become willing to recognize it and work through it. What you can do is stop blaming yourself, because this is one of the most important things to remember. Their emotional distance is not proof that you're unworthy. It's evidence of unresolved pain they carry. When they pull away, it doesn't automatically mean you weren't enough. When they become emotionally distant, it doesn't erase what you shared. And if they lie awake missing you but still can't send a message, it doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. Often it means they're trapped inside a protective pattern that once helped them survive, but now keeps them painfully isolated. In many ways, they've built emotional walls so strong that they've become a prison. The heartbreaking part is they've convinced themselves those walls are keeping them safe. The greatest irony is that the people who need genuine connection the most are often the ones who struggle the hardest to ask for it. Avoidant people aren't born emotionally cold. Many simply learned to shut parts of themselves down because at one point in life, that felt necessary. The problem is that the survival strategy keeps running long after the original danger has disappeared, so the cycle repeats. At night, they think about you. They replay old conversations. They check your profile. They feel the urge to reach out. Then they push that urge away. They feel guilty for doing it. Morning arrives, the emotional armor goes back on, and they move through another day pretending none of it happened. Now let's talk about what you can actually do if you're currently involved with someone like this. The first thing to understand is that pressure almost always creates more distance. The harder you chase, the more their protective instincts activate. That doesn't automatically mean they don't care. It means intense pursuit often triggers the same alarm system that taught them closeness could become painful. Even if you're loving, patient, and emotionally healthy, constant pursuit can still feel overwhelming to someone whose nervous system associates intimacy with danger. That doesn't mean you should play emotional games or purposely withdraw to manipulate them. Instead, build a life that remains full whether they're close or distant. Invest in your friendships, follow your own goals, develop passions that exist independently of the relationship. Maintain your own identity. This isn't manipulation, it's emotional health. Because if your entire world revolves around managing someone else's emotions, you'll slowly lose yourself in the process. That's not love. That's self-abandonment. The second thing to remember is that avoidant people usually respond better to steady consistency than dramatic emotional moments. Grand gestures rarely create lasting trust. Reliable behavior does. When your words consistently match your actions, when you're emotionally stable, and when your care doesn't disappear every time things become difficult, that quiet reliability slowly becomes meaningful.
They may never say it out loud. They may not even realize how much it matters. But consistency reaches places inside them that emotional intensity often cannot. The third thing involves how emotions are communicated. Many avoidant people become overwhelmed when conversations suddenly become emotionally explosive. That doesn't mean you should hide your feelings. It simply means the way you express them matters. You can honestly say, "I've been missing you," without demanding immediate reassurance. You can calmly explain, "That hurt me," instead of saying, "You always do this." The message stays the same. The delivery changes everything. And if you've already stepped away from an avoidant person, wondering what they're experiencing now, here's something worth understanding. When you created real distance, not as a strategy, but because you genuinely stopped chasing, something often changed inside them. Avoidant people frequently don't experience the full weight of their emotions until they realize the relationship could truly be gone. While you were always available, their focus stayed on protecting themselves. The walls remained high. But when your presence became uncertain, their nervous system finally had room to feel what had been buried underneath. That's when the nighttime memories become stronger. That's when checking your profile happens more often. That's when the silence grows heavier because they can no longer distract themselves from your absence. Even then, they still may not reach out. That's one of the hardest realities to accept. Sometimes the fear of vulnerability is still stronger than the desire for connection. Admitting, "I miss you," "I was wrong," or "I made a mistake," can feel overwhelming to someone who spent years believing emotional openness is dangerous. So, they continue sitting with the pain instead of risking honesty. But eventually, some of them do find the courage to reach out. Sometimes, an avoidant person reaches a point where the pain of missing you becomes stronger than the fear of being vulnerable. When that happens, don't expect a dramatic confession or an emotional speech. More often, it begins with something small. Maybe they send you a funny meme. Maybe they mention an old memory. Maybe they text something simple like, "This reminded me of you." They usually choose a message that feels safe, something they can easily pull back from if they don't get the response they hoped for. To most people, it may seem insignificant. For an avoidant person, it's anything but. That small message often represents a huge internal battle. It means they faced their fear of vulnerability and reached out anyway. It means for a brief moment, they lowered the emotional walls they've spent years building. What happens next matters more than many people realize. If your response is so emotional that it overwhelms them, or if you immediately try to return to the same level of closeness that existed before, they may instinctively retreat again. The opening they've created is delicate. It needs patience, not pressure. You can welcome them warmly without clinging to them. You can be happy to hear from them without making them responsible for your emotional well-being. You can leave the door open without rushing them through it. Learning how to respond this way takes practice. It requires emotional awareness and self-control. The challenge is finding the balance between not punishing them for disappearing and not rewarding the pattern so quickly that everything becomes emotionally intense again. Now let's step back and look at the bigger picture. We've spent a lot of time exploring what goes on inside an avoidant person's mind.
Understanding their experience is valuable because compassion often begins with understanding. But never let that understanding make you forget your own needs. Ask yourself one honest question, not the version influenced by hope or by how deeply you love them. The real question: is this relationship giving you enough to make the emotional cost worthwhile? It doesn't have to be perfect. No relationship is.
But are you receiving enough affection, enough consistency, enough emotional availability, enough mutual effort, enough partnership to build a healthy future? Or have you become someone who keeps explaining their behavior while quietly ignoring your own unmet needs? Understanding someone's attachment style doesn't mean you have to accept a relationship that continuously leaves you emotionally empty. You can deeply empathize with someone's pain and still recognize that the relationship their pain creates isn't healthy for you. Those two truths can exist together. You can love someone and still choose to let them go. You can understand someone completely while deciding to protect your own peace. That's not giving up. That's emotional wisdom. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for an avoidant person is also the most honest. You can calmly tell them, "I understand why you pull away. I see the fear behind your actions. But I also need more emotional connection than you're able to give me right now." Not as a threat, not as manipulation, simply as an honest expression of your reality. Interestingly, that kind of calm honesty can affect an avoidant person in ways they don't expect. Many of them are used to one of two reactions. People either tolerate the emotional distance for far too long, or they eventually explode with frustration. What they rarely experience is someone who can hold compassion and healthy boundaries at the same time. Someone who can honestly say, "I care about you. I understand you. And I also respect my own needs." That combination is powerful. For someone who's spent years expecting rejection, conflict, or emotional chaos, meeting a person who remains calm, kind, and grounded can feel completely unfamiliar. Will it guarantee change? No, nothing guarantees change except their own willingness to heal. But it creates one of the safest opportunities for genuine growth. Let's return to where we started. The avoidant person lying awake at night, replaying memories, checking your profile without saying anything, feeling the urge to contact you, talking themselves out of it, feeling guilty, then repeating the cycle all over again. The truth is that they often feel much more than they ever show. They miss more than they'll admit. They want closeness more than they know how to express. And underneath all of it is fear. Fear of depending on someone, fear of losing control, fear of being hurt again. Understanding that can be both comforting and heartbreaking, because it reminds you that the connection you felt wasn't imaginary. The feelings were real, the bond mattered. But here's the part that's most important to remember. Real feelings alone don't create a healthy relationship. Love and emotional chemistry are only part of the foundation. Without emotional safety, communication, vulnerability, and mutual effort, even genuine love can struggle to survive. Now you understand what's happening beneath the surface. What you choose to do with that understanding is entirely up to you. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to leave the word "night" in the comments. Thank you for spending this time with Avoidant Heart. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love to have you join us. Every new subscriber helps us continue sharing content that brings clarity, healing, and understanding, one video at a time. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being here.